Fine. Who doesn't know, Neill? You don't know Baddy. Oh. Who doesn't know Nick? I'll first start with Baddy. What is your role now, and how does it fit in the Drupal board?
So I've been in the board, so I don't know how much you know about the board of the Drupal Association. It works like this, that we are minimum 11 people. And Dries has been in the board since the start. He used to be the chair of the board, but a couple of years ago he was not the chair anymore, and we had like a chair coming from the board. So currently now, since the 22nd of February, I'm the chair of the board. Before that, I was the treasurer, meaning I was leading the finance committee in the board, and we oversee, as a board, we oversee the strategy of the Drupal Association, and we make sure that the priorities are correct, and that the staff we hire the executive director of the Drupal Association. So as a chair, that is like my main role, to get the board together, and then we form the board. So the board consists of 11 to I think 15 people, and 2 of them are community elected positions. So every year there's an election where the community elects its candidate, and then the others on the board are nominated by the board. I hope that's, but feel free to ask questions around that. I can tell you more about that and what the DA is then, like the board is doing.
We'll just do it around, and then we'll throw the cube that way. Hi, Neill.
Hi, I'm Neill Drumm. I am on the engineering team at the association. So, day-to-day, building and fixing things on Drupal.org, keeping everything running.
Yeah.
So my name is Nick. I'm one of the organizers here of the Drupal Developer Days, and also since November, member of the board of the Drupal Association. It was a interesting experience to see like a board meeting. I've never had a board meeting, and you have to say yay and nay and that kind of like German, like British things. So I was like, what are you doing? So it's been an interesting experience so far. We can talk a bit more about that in a bit.
So first question, Nick, what is your role in the association? What will be your areas of expertise?
In the bigger Drupal association or the local one?
Here, what are we talking about now?
Yeah, maybe just for disclosure, I'm also the president of the local Drupal association, which is not to be confused with the global association. There is no link at all between the two, other than Drupal. We love each other, which is a good thing, but sometimes maybe also a difficult thing in that sense. But my role in the Drupal association, in that matter, or what I'm interested in improving, is the link between the Drupal Association as the organization and the association behind it, and the European community, for that matter. So that you, as I think most of you or all of you, except for Surabi from India, everybody else is from Europe. No, yeah. So like making sure that you feel also connected to the Drupal Association as a whole. If that succeeds, then I would be really, really happy. But that's a challenge.
Any questions already? Not yet? I got a question for Neill. What is blue cheese? It was just the weirdest name I saw in the list.
Blue cheese is the theme we use on Drupal.org. So the original custom theme, Drupal.org originally used whatever was in core in Drupal 4.5 and earlier, and sometime around that. Steve Witten's made Blue Beach as the new theme. I don't think there was another one before Blue Beach. But yeah, whoever makes the next theme gets to choose the name, and they're all blue themed.
I like blue cheese.
But did you know that what Dries really does not like is blue cheese? So blue, like if you ever go anywhere with Dries, he's gonna say like, I can eat everything except blue cheese.
But you don't have to eat this blue cheese.
No, like interesting choice. So
But
like
that's good for the trivia.
that's good for the trivia. Okay, good. What does? Yeah. So look, I didn't know this. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So when Drupal.org gets ported to Drupal 9 or 10 or whatever it will it also be the same theme or just a port of the current theme? Will it also be called Blue Cheese, or will it be different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a couple things going on at once. All else, so it's going to be a big project to migrate the sites, and we're going to have stuff running in Drupal 7 and Drupal 9 simultaneously, and we do want the sub-sites to look like you're on the same site. So yeah, I think there should be some continuity, and that being we probably have the same name, but yeah. But it's just a name. We could swap it out. I think Blue Cheese right now it uses some sort of Ruby build chain instead of. I think you have to use Node.js to be cool nowadays. So if we're swapping out the whole how the Sass is compiled, then maybe it's time for a new name. And the other thing is, and Baddy could probably talk about this. We're thinking about refreshing the landing pages on the homepage to make those a little more, more pop, more selling Drupal.
Not popovers, I hope.
So we are getting some designs from that. They have some contractors who are building that, but that's only for the landing pages. If you start a theme with a landing page, it looks like crap for the rest of the actual content.
Yes.
So recently, or maybe a couple of years ago already, on project pages, you can add an ecosystem, or you can say for a module it belongs to Search API, and then they all get linked together. Will some of that information be exposed on more marketing pages as well, or is it just because now it's just a very boring list of all the modules that have that same thing, or will I think that maybe ties into the project browser stuff as well? How will that be exposed? Will there be things done to make it visually more appealing as well?
Do you know anything about that?
I can talk about that. Did you want to say anything else about the homepage stuff afterwards, or okay? So on project browsing, they've been looking at the project browsing initiative has been looking at ways to leverage the data from the ecosystem fields on projects. So yeah, we'll see if they come up with good ideas. I don't have any great ideas. The problem with that field is it's relatively new and a little hard to find, and maintainers use it in different ways. So if it's an interesting feature, but if there's not the data to back it up, then it won't actually help anything. And yeah, did you want to say anything else about the homepage stuff?
So if you haven't noticed it, that Drupal.org is an English page, right? And being Icelandic, living in Germany, and speaking also other languages that are related to, nobody will actually, in my ecosystem where I am, actually search for anything in English when they are searching for things around Drupal. It means that Drupal.org actually never gets found, except because of the word Drupal, and Drupal.org is, of course, going to come up really soon. But if you're really searching, you actually land on, in my case, of course, a German page. And there is not very much marketing and information about Drupal in all of our languages, except what our agencies and ecosystem has actually put out. There are like local associations that maintain these pages, Drupal.de and so on, but these pages are very often very outdated, just because there's no time to do that. And I see here, yes, and and I think like I'm in charge of like the Drupal.is page that is like I think not even working at the moment, and the DA page is also probably on the DE on 7 or 6. So the idea is, of course, to how can we maybe localize some of the pages on Drupal.org as well. So that would, of course, be like an ultimate dream. Again, here, like everything that the engineering team does, there needs to be priorities because we can't do everything at the same time. And that is why we need the support from the ecosystem to come and help the DA and become supporting partners to like participate in the programs that we have, because we need to be able to fund these type of things to be doing, because there are so much things that we want to do. One of them being like, let's localize, like to make Drupal.org homepage and the main landing page is maybe in like 10 languages and get the community to translate it. Get the local associations to help with that, because that would be so much easier, right? And of course, Drupal is also a great project for multilingual websites, I've heard. So we should maybe be doing that too. But again, the priorities needs to be set. And at the moment, one of the biggest priorities, of course, just generally the D9 upgrade on Drupal.org, and of course the Gitlab transition and all that stuff. So that was the pitch for like why your company should become a partner of the supporting partner of the Drupal Association.
I would love to ditch the Drupal.be website, so I'm totally in favor of this change. Yeah, so maybe for that matter, and on adding to that, I think it's a great idea to add a bit more multilingual capabilities to Drupal.org in terms of eating your own dog food, because many in Europe and other countries are actually challenged with that multilingual thing not being in Drupal core per se, like to the extent that maybe customers need. That doesn't mean that this will solve everything, but it will bring that bridge closer to, like, we feel this issue, and it helps with these marketing pages. I also don't know when this will be possible. If you find a really big donation somewhere, send it to Neill and his team, and then this could go much more quickly. But that's the friction or the challenge that there is. You cannot solve everything in a week. Not even with all of the money in the world in that sense. But it's a balance. And today the balance goes to, indeed, enabling contributors in a sense towards GitLab and Drupal.org. And then we'll see, and that's what the association then does with the board of directors, is to define and set these priorities. Hopefully with a lot of feedback from the audience. But that's the tricky part as well. And we'd love to talk about code. We love to talk about how to build websites, all that stuff. And then suddenly, when it comes to conversation, how to build a community. And if I would ask you, and maybe that's also a good question to the audience, like, how could we do this even better? But that's challenging.
Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. So, small question. I like to know a little bit more about the life of the association. I think as this international association, we cannot meet, physically every time. So, how do you manage it? And talk a little about the life of the association.
You mean from like what the staff is doing, or what the DA is generally doing?
Generally, yeah.
So I would say there are two main things that the Drupal Association is working on constantly. One is the Drupal.org infrastructure and everything related to that. So there's the engineering team that needs to be working on that. So that's a very big part of the Drupal Association, and everything that we are talking about all the time, how that can be done better. And then, of course, there's a lot of input coming, not just from the board, but also from the core committers. So there's the initiatives. I was part of the Decoupled initiative, And one of the things that we realized when we did the decoupled menu initiative is that we wanted to create like a decoupled menu component, but we couldn't put it on Drupal.org because Drupal.org could only you could only create modules and themes. So you couldn't like take your JavaScript code and actually put that on Drupal.org. So that was an initiative, for example, that was done by the community and led by Dries, a strategic initiative. And then suddenly the DA got like very heavily involved in that because the DA needed to change, the engineering team needed to like create a way for us to put our JavaScript code onto Drupal.org. And that was actually the biggest task of the decoupled menu initiative. So in the end, like the decoupled menu initiative was a simple thing. We could do the decoupled menu component relatively easy and make changes to the JSON API, but we didn't have a place to put it on. So then there comes this cooperation between the community, the project lead, the core committers, the release managers, and the Drupal Association. And suddenly the Drupal Association engineering team gets that as a priority, let's say, to make that available for the project so the project can grow. So that's why I say like, so what happened now, if you go on Drupal.org, you can create a module, you can create a theme, but you can also create a general project. And in that general, and then you can have a community project too, and you can have a couple of things. But the general project allows you to actually host JavaScript code and do tests when you like release a new code and stuff like that. So this is something that is very, this was a need from the community and from the project to be able to do that, and then the engineering team does that. Yeah. So that's like a big part of the Drupal Association. Another part of the Drupal Association is to bring the community together. So there's the DrupalCon North America that happens every year, and then there is DrupalCon Europe, which is being organized by another company, which is Kony, but that is still like a licensed. So they license DrupalCon from the Drupal Association. So it means that the Drupal Association is still involved. Like we have the event page for DrupalCon that's still being run by the Drupal Association engineering team. But the North America DrupalCon is completely organized by the Drupal Association. But the DrupalCon in Europe is being organized by another entity that is still very closely working with the Drupal Association. And then the last thing maybe around that, so these were the two things, all the engineering stuff, and then creating like these events. And then there is like, we are supporting a lot of like initiatives. Promo Drupal is one of them, supporting the community working group, supporting the event organizer groups. Like there's all Discover Drupal programs. Mm-hmm. You can become a supporting partner, then you can also like get your badge on Drupal.org. So there's all kinds of programs that the Drupal Association is doing. Does that answer it? You want to add anything to it?
I'll ask another question with that. And how do you organize people from all over the world working together on these concrete projects, like the engineering part? Just Corona happening, online meetings, traveling.
Well, that's a huge challenge because we can only do that through Slack and the issue queue and online meetings that we do. So like we need these events to be able to come together, and that is a little bit part of the mission of the Drupal Association, is to bring the community together to promote and secure and develop Drupal and to make that happen. So we need to like find ways to do that.
Okay.
How? It's difficult.
Another question.
How you do to extend to countries where there's no local communities, but maybe there's people also working with Drupal? Do you have a plan to try to expand, gather together these people and try to make a community there?
Where are you from?
Spain. We have a community, but
where in Spain?
Barcelona.
Yes, so the Drupal Association has been doing these roundtables, that to bring together the local associations to see how we could help other local associations. So there was the Drupal Association in Colombia was, for example, created, and with the help of Michelle, who was in the board. So we have been helping and assisting, but that's mostly been done through local associations. So being Nick, who's been now in this local association here, basically like being a local association leader, helping other local associations to be funded. In India, it's like, again, like from Sirjan, from like these large companies in India, they are just putting how is the DA helping? We are not having any person on staff or anything to help with that. That is just organized by the community. But we try to bring these people together by doing roundtables, and we have on Drupal Association Slack, we have like a Slack channel when we invite like the leaders of each local association. So if you have a local association that you want to fund, like I don't know, in Cyprus, do we have a local association? You are the local association, yeah, great. So if there is no entity that, often it is just the biggest companies that are helping. But if you want to create an entity, you should then probably just come and ask the Drupal Association, and we can tell you who to connect to. That would probably be Nick and me and you. You want to add to it?
And I understand the question, but also in the past, indeed, these associations just popped up because there needed to be a financial vehicle to just organize events and to do liabilities towards an entity and not you as a person. You take an enormous risk, for example, to organize such an event, and then suddenly, if I would be personally liable, I wouldn't do this. If an accident happened here, any of that stuff. So the association, in a sense, or the local associations, in that sense, are in my experience, more for these kind of liabilities or event organizing purposes. That doesn't represent the entire community, obviously, but it's for those that actually take those initiatives. Now, where does the Drupal Association come in? I think you should see them as like a toolkit, as in they will not step in your country and say, this is how you should do this is how you organize this financial vehicle, this is the playbook of the event. Should there be that? I don't know. For Belgium, I don't think so. But see them as a toolkit of allowing contributors to come together. For example, people that come here, how do they work together? Well, on Drupal.org. Luckily, it's there, because otherwise, I don't know how we would even organize this event and then tell people what, where, how, everything on GitHub. I don't know. So I'm happy that the Drupal Association and that direction is there to do that mission and vision on top of it. I don't know if that helps in the answer or if that's really fuzzy, but yeah.
No, it's just like. So at the moment, the DA is not helping with that, except just assisting if you need, So the event organizer group. So there is a working group for event organizers, and they actually report to the DA. So they regularly come and say, hey, we have a need. We want to have our events on Drupal.org. And again, community comes and says, we want to have something done. And then the engineering team needs to probably start working on that depending on the priorities. And of course, you have a lot of those. And the event organizers, they are, for example, creating a starter kit to make websites for Drupal camps. They are creating a playbook around how do you do that. And one of the first things that actually always comes up is what he said: you have to have an entity. And that is, depending on the country, very different. So in Germany, we have two entities. We have a non-profit entity and we have a for-profit entity. And the reason was we couldn't do Splash Awards with a non-profit entity because Splash Awards was a commercial event promoting companies and stuff like that. So we couldn't do that with a non-profit entity in Germany. But then we did Drupal Europe, but that we could do through the non-profit entity because that was an educational event. So yeah. So it really depends on the country that you're in. So the Drupal Association is set up in the United States, and it's an entity that is an LLC, non-profit, 501c3. And that means that entity cannot just do anything. There is rules of what that entity can do, and that's for educational purposes. And DrupalCon is for educational purposes and bring the community together. It's not for promoting, and commercial things, even though there's of course sponsors to sponsor that. And that really depends on the country that we come from. Of course, the line is very thin, and also like what is in the entity in Drupal Association, so they can sell ads. So if you notice, if you go on Drupal.org, there are ads, and that is, for example, a separate part which then is paid taxes from. And this is all public information. If you go to Drupal.org, you can look at all of the tax files and all this stuff. So it's all there, and you can see actually that maybe, I don't know, 2% or 5% is digital ad selling, but then also taxes paid from that. But normally a non-profit does not pay taxes. And therefore, like, that needs to be fulfilling the purposes of the non-profit, which is very different depending on what country you're from, how that rules is.
Had jij nog iets? Sorry, in English. Oh, sorry.
Just one thing. If someone asks you what you did in that castle in Ghent, it's educational purposes.
Yeah, even the association in the US itself was originally for DrupalCon at Washington, D.C., like needed a bank account for an event. And yeah, we're a 501c3, and that's just the US tax code. And there's requirements around that. People can donate to us tax-free if they're in the US. Yeah, it's all tax code, basically.
Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, we need it for the life.
Why are you here? There's so many.
Because I thought that power socket was only there, and then the amazing person over there that's responsible for the technical part told me that there's like power plugs everywhere in here, and I was like amazed. So I can sit everywhere now, but it's too late. So one thing, so you, on one end, yes, the DA is not the local associations, and the local associations are not the DA, but there could be a lot of synergy between them. Like one thing that I think would be, I don't know, like each association promoting like a combined membership, where I don't know, like the local associations don't, and the DA also reciprocating by saying, hey, there's a direct DA membership. There's also the one that you can support your local association, because we see that your profile says you're registered in Portugal, so maybe you could, or India, or Belgium, or Germany, so maybe you could use the combined, in cases where that agreement was there, maybe you could use the combined membership, and there would be like a discount between having both separate. But I think in the end, what would happen would be both sides would win, because I don't know, like how many people are members of the Belgian association. Yeah, I mean, like if you got one more, then that would. Okay, good. But other associations actually want to have members. Okay, so in your case you don't care, but others would probably enjoy, and this would be, this would be something that would maybe be better for everyone. Like the synergy that you get, the DA would get more members, the local associations would get more visibility, more members also, and everybody would benefit.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell that Nick will explain why there's only 3 members in Belgium.
So you're bringing in a really good point, because talking about us being in Germany, you know, we are of course like supporting the German Drupal Local Association, and what they are doing events, right? That's like what their main thing. So they also have like, mainly they are creating events, Drupal camps and stuff like that. So we are members of that, and that money that goes into there is not flowing into the DA, and not flowing into like, you know, so many of the local associations, when they do the camps, they actually have the option of like also support the Drupal Association. And we've seen that a lot in the United States. You have like Drupal Camp Colorado and others that have actually been doing that. So you can become a member of the camp, or you can like register, but you can also donate. You know, I think even Was it not something like that also on Drupal Dev Days? No. Yeah, but to the Drupal Association. Yeah. So Joao, to your point, like I think there needs to be something like that, and that goes also into your point as well. Like, how can that be done a little bit better? Because we, as companies in Spain or in Germany or in Cyprus, we normally actually only like support the ecosystem that we are in because that is closest to us. And we go to the Drupal camps, and then but then we are only using Drupal.org, for example, and we are relying on that in our business. And we are relying on that we get the security updates on the Wednesdays when they come out. And we are relying on all this work that they are doing. So we should actually also, at least if we are not already doing it, we should also be supporting the DA, and that should be connected together. How? Like, I don't know. Like, we have to figure that out. But it's also not easy to have, like, you know, entities in every country and stuff like that. So exactly. So like, so what Joao is saying is that like it could be a very complicated thing, but we could also think about it simple. But
yeah. So maybe to add to that, I'll explain about the 3 members in a bit. But Belgium is also a little bit of a special country in terms of fiscal stuff. So if fiscality. There's a couple of organizations that you can donate to, and then you can subtract that from your fiscal things because they're charitable organizations that are recognized by the Belgian government. The Drupal Association in the US is not recognized, so any donation you do is not fiscally deductible. So for the same with Ukraine, for example, only a certain amount of organizations you can donate to and actually get it back from your taxes. So it's like a win-win to do this. Donating it to the Drupal Association is tricky because Belgians have this tendency to optimize their fiscal stuff. Well, I can only talk about Belgium in that sense. The same with paychecks, and it's crazy. To the point of the 3 members, a nonprofit in Belgium is legally obligated to have 3 members, which is the financial person, the treasurer. It's not her, but she had that role in the bigger association. Then you have to have like a president, and then I think a note keeper or whatever it's called, secretary. And the overhead that comes with registering members, given the amount of time we only have, as in volunteers, it's an all volunteering-based organization, we decided, no, we cannot just have this and let's organize events and have fun with each other, but not have this overhead of members or membership cards or I don't want to be a member anymore, or like
publishing a new name in the staff.
Yes, and indeed, like all the legal stuff that comes with it. That doesn't mean that we don't have members. I mean, you see, it's a very healthy volunteering group, and there's a healthy Slack group, and people are happy together. But it's a no bullshit thing in that sense. Nobody. Well, in theory, and then in practice, we would like ask who wants to actually take a seat, and then have a conversation, and then nobody shows up. And then it's okay, because then we vote. And for example, Sven was president, I think 3 years ago, and he said like, oh, I'm having a kid, I don't want to do this. And then it's like, well, I'm fine with that. And then we shift seats. It's not that formal in that sense, and maybe it's not super correct, but also as long as there's no friction within the community and it's a very open conversation, I don't see a lot of issues with that. It's not a dictatorship, for example. Yeah, but that's more like tricky, and it's very local organizational stuff.
I'm curious to understand where everybody's from. So I'm curious to understand where everybody's from, and I'm gonna repeat where you're all from. So we heard that you're from Spain community. We see Gabor there from the Hungarian community. We have you two from the Cyprus community. So, and Surabi here from the Indian community. So where are you? From France community? Great. And you're from the Belgium community, and you're from the Belgium community as well. And you guys? From the Danish community, yeah, exactly. And you? Romania. And Portugal, Germany. So we actually have like a really nice get together here. So how is it going? Like, can I ask a question? So how is it going in the what?
And the US.
And the US community, of course.
And you.
And the Icelandic community, of course. And you guys, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, true. So we are actually having representative here of very many different communities. So is the Danish community active at the moment, or are you? I'm not sure. Do you wanna tell us about like is there any events in Denmark, or is there an entity in Denmark, or do you know anything about that, or can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's supposed to work this way, but we can give it a try. Yeah, I don't actually know if there's anything going on in Denmark at the moment. I just had a kid a few years ago, and so things have been a bit crazy for me. The change of jobs and all of that. So I don't really know what's cooking in the Danish community, but I think it is pretty still at the moment, actually. It's been hard with all the corona and all of that. So I think it's just, it needs time to get back to speed, I guess. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think they dissolved actually what you call it, the Danish Drupal Association. Yeah, because there wasn't enough interest, and when they tried to make events, there was like not that many people coming, and so I think I'm not sure. I think I remember some years ago they talked about that when they dissolved it, they gave them money they had to some specific case. I'm not sure. So I'm not really sure that there is anything. Mostly it's just companies doing Drupal stuff.
But a lot of great companies in Denmark doing a lot of great Drupal. And in Romania, how is it? Do you know what is Romania?
So in Romania, before the pandemic, we had monthly meetups, but they were basically town-based. So we in Bucharest had some meetups, but in most of the meetups were people from our own company, and rarely 1, 2, 3 more people shown up from other companies. In Cluj, I think that there's a bigger community, and they are doing it more regularly.
Yes.
But yeah, right now we don't do it anymore in Bucharest. We stopped 2 years ago 2 or 3 years ago when the pandemic started.
Correct.
And that's all. In 2018, we organized a hack camp in Bucharest, and that is the biggest event I know that was organized there. Of course, it was also the Dev Days in Cluj.
Yes.
Yay! Yeah, that's something that everybody knows about it. But doing any other meetups is pretty hard. Any other camps, not meetups, not like local meetup. And in terms of financial terms, when we did the hack camp in 2018, we were barely break even in the end. A colleague from a company in Bacău had to pump a lot of money for that to happen in the end. So yeah, at this moment it's standstill. The whole Romanian community is pretty standstill. So we have just local groups in different towns, and that's it.
So and this what you are describing and what you are describing is nothing different from like what we are experiencing in Iceland, in India, probably the same. I know that in Germany, we were struggling a lot. We started to do actually user groups online that we got like Switzerland, Austria, and Germany together, and we started to like do that, which actually was good. But I think we need to figure out some ways to get that active again.
Yeah. We are in need for ideas on how to gather people together. You mentioned that you do some meetups online, but in my mind I don't see that happening because it's hard to make someone come online, and what should they discuss there? When you gather on an on-site event, you can socialize. It's a more pleasant way of socializing, but online, for me personally, I wouldn't be so keen on participating on online events.
No.
Yeah.
And maybe we have to activate our companies also a little bit more. And that is what we have been talking about. Like, how can we convince the companies that we are working for to actually maybe have the initiative because they have the entity to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so but will that be accepted by the community? I don't know. If there's a company, maybe it is, because maybe before it was a little bit, trickier because we didn't want to like too much. It was more about the individuals, but maybe now we have to start changing that. I think in India, there was a meetup the other day, right, Surabhi?
Yeah, in March we did a hybrid camp kind of meetup.
So in on-site and
it was both online and offline, and it was at multiple locations. That is in multiple cities in India. Sorry, is it better? Yeah. So we did in multiple locations in India. So I could say it was 50-50.
Nice.
As in success rate was 50-50, because since we had the option of attending online, so people were not interested in coming offline. So that is a new challenge that we see now, that how to do an event that is feasible for everyone in terms of safety.
Correct.
And is it a good idea to do a hybrid event or not? So that is a new challenge that we see now. But yeah, we did something at least after 2 years.
Yeah. So there is going to be now happening in Spain, in Zaragoza, there's going to be a Drupal camp in the beginning of June. There's going to be Drupal Jam. See, you're wearing a Drupal. Is there a Drupal Jam that you're wearing? Oh, it was the hacker. It was similar to. There's going to be Drupal Jam happening in Netherlands, in Utrecht, on the 1st of June. There's going to be Mountain Camp happening in the end of June in Davos. There's going to be DrupalCon Europe. And what more do we know of that is happening? What do you say? There's in Poland too. When is that going to happen? Do you know when?
Yeah, so that right before Drupal Jam at the end of May, Wrocław in Poland, there's a Drupal camp as well.
Yeah, so I really encourage you all, if you want to be part of that, go and join the event organizer working group. So if you go on Drupal.org, there is something called the community initiatives, or I think it is less community, and there is a link to the event organizer group. And there is all the information about how to join that and go into the conversations, because they can then help, and there are people that are interested in organizing events in your in countries close to you or something like that. So just as info. But anyone else that want to share with us? Hungary, do you want to?
we yeah. Yeah, in Hungary we had a similar experience with COVID stopping our meetups, and then we restarted them recently, and they are starting up slow, but they are going well. And
so yeah, and we have in-person meetups.
In-person meetups now, yes, and we also have some of us are going to events in Romania or Serbia when there's nearby events, and near the border it's easy to go, so that we are going across the border as well for different events.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in the United States, there's also a lot of camps. So.
So yeah, even in the U.S., there are every camp sets up a local financial entity of some sort. Yeah, it used to be for a while the association could do that, but it's also it's not just a bank account; it's insurance liability, and yeah, I don't know the exact details, but I believe whoever handles our insurance said maybe don't. It wasn't feasible to keep doing that for every camp. So yeah, every camp's usually has their own bank account, and they'll share that with the local meetup in some cases.
Correct, and they have it in each. They have basically also the local associations around the camps in the United States. So Drupal Camp Florida, Mike is here. If you want to ask him about how they are organizing that. Not here. No, the other Mike.
We have a different Mike.
There are two.
And yeah, it depends on place by place how it's organized. Like if there's one dominant company in that's organized in the camp, they might just put it on their books, or set up a separate entity if there's a few people, or if that doesn't make sense. On membership, in general, that program's kind of been coasting. We, you have to put, every nonprofit, especially in the U.S. and I'm sure everywhere else, we have to have a fund development team to, it's their job to find money, and yeah, membership is not a huge portion of the budget. So the incoming budgets, we haven't put that much into growing it. We go after companies because they're making profits off Drupal, and it
makes sense.
Seems like a more productive way to get money. But yeah, we're looking for ways to revamp the membership program and see what's a valuable benefit of membership. You get the badge on your profile and you feel good about donating. Is that enough? Or in the past we've had some discounts on books and stuff, but what motivates? We need to figure out what motivates people to be individual members.
More questions or?
So the Drupal Association has a lot of engineering staff. I think that
what? Engineering, yeah, sorry.
I think they mostly run Drupal.org and the tooling and all the other things. And I see a lot of them also contribute to Drupal core, but mainly to fix stuff that is required to make Drupal.org run or to port it. Is there the money that the DA gets? Is there also some way to sponsor core development or things that are going that direction?
Hold on. Yeah. Okay.
So on the engineering team side, we're 4 people full time on staff, and we have, I believe, 3 contractors right now on 1-year contracts to help out with the GitLab initiative, and our infrastructure provider, Tag One. That's probably a third of someone's time working on the site, on the infrastructure. So not a huge team for what we do, but yeah, and we're less than probably a third of the organization headcount wise, less than a third, maybe a quarter, because you said 17 people. So as far as staff, and let's see, what was the second part?
Core development.
Oh,
so I think so they are of course obviously doing a lot of adding to that, and I think this is the challenge of any organization like this, is how to be able to fund the engineering resources and getting actually more of them. So how can we figure out a model to do that? And one of the models was, for example, we have DrupalCon happening, and DrupalCon has always been profitable. So the money that has come from DrupalCon has actually always been going directly into the engineering work, in that sense, to fund that. Then there is this membership. There is an individual membership. There is a sponsoring program. So if, to your question, would it make sense, for example, that companies could pay the Drupal Association money to get something done in core? I don't know. Is that a good idea? It's not happening today, apart from the fact that what they're doing, But, I don't know. That would be a good question to the community, right?
The contributions right now are a side effect and not from the engineering stuff, are a side effect of working on Drupal.org, but not intention.
Should I repeat the question, for the video? Or
just answer the.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's see. When the association was founded originally, it was actually in the bylaws that we wouldn't get into core development. We were literally just a bank account at the very start when it was 1 or 2 people, and the idea was the core development, Drupal community was doing well on its own, and money can change things and be scary. Like, if you start contributing to one person or one initiative, will other people say, well, I'm not going to do the same thing if I'm not being paid? So yeah, there's definitely been some cautiousness around the association controlling the Drupal code base. That's kind of loosened up a little bit. There's been on staff with the engineering team, the things that Drupal uses Drupal.org as a service. So with the semantic versioning and localization and stuff, it makes sense for us to write the core patch that figures out the right API to call at Drupal.org. So that some of that happens. And there's been, what was the Drupal something acceleration? Oh, yeah, I think the Drupal 8 acceleration, that was a fundraising effort that we gave out grants to, I believe it was the Drupal 8 release cycle, get Drupal 8 across the finish line. So we've done bits and pieces of it. Hasn't ruined everything as far as I know. So we could do more, maybe.
But it does raise a good question for local associations as like a kind of a side effect. For example, with this event, if there's profit, what to do with that profit? Obviously, you need some money to run the association, and hopefully, if some issue happens, you need to have some reserve. But then there's some extra, and then what to do with that extra? And if we could all agree as associations what to do with that extra, whether if it's donating to the association, donating it to a group of people that vouch for, I'll be a good participant in Drupal core and listen to people. I don't know, but I don't think we ever had that conversation. And in that sense, also, you don't have to do the event to be break even at the end. Ideally, there's profit. It just doesn't have to go to you because you're a non-profit organization. That doesn't mean that the event has to be break even and then everybody's happy. Maybe you could do even more. You could empower someone. But also for the Belgian organization, we didn't really have that conversation yet. Not yet, but now it's probably a good time to have that conversation because I'm not allowed to take it from the bank account. Neither is Joris or anyone else.
I think I have an idea. There was money needed for multilingualism.
Yeah, so I would like to add the last. I think we have to go for lunch, right?
Yes.
So the Drupal Association has been having profit now in the last 2 years, thanks to those organizations who have continued supporting us, even though we have not been having in-person events. And one of the things that the Drupal Association board decided, because there's always a budget every year, and the budget is have it around break even or something like that. We have these people on staff, and we are going to these programs. Everything that is above that, for example, if there is a profit from previous year, the board can actually decide where to put that profit or to take some of the profit and put that into something. And that was how the Gitlab extra engineers were funded for this 1 year, was that because the board decided to take X amount of the extra budget that we had and put that into that innovation that is going on for the Drupal Association. So that means that we can decide that to do that again if there is again going to continue to be a profit. So that was to your point, it's okay to have a profit. And also for the Drupal Association, we want to have a profit because we want to have the stability of security for the staff, that if something goes wrong, if there comes another pandemic or if there's war happening or something stops coming in, that at least we have the funds there. So it's okay to have a profit. But if you have something above that, then you should probably decide to invest in something. And that is how we actually invested in these extra people to make sure that Neill and his team can continue working on the GitLab, and they can also take some of the load of the daily business and stuff, something like that. But it doesn't mean that that job is not finished. We need to still continue fundraising for that to be able to continue like that work. So again, if you want to support the Drupal Association, talk to me afterwards. Was that a good ending?
Yeah.
And
Then
thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and asking all these good questions.
So, and time for lunch. Yes.
We're maybe over time.
No, it's okay. It's perfect. Perfect for lunch. See you at lunch.